It's just like you're just flying through.
A lot of ton of Jesus by the referees going out on the ice.
What? What?
Continue.
I hope you're gonna be funnier in the actual podcast.
You're listening to the Team Stripes Podcast, the podcast for hockey referees. Each show, we discuss the world of officiating and find out that not everything is black and white. Here are your hosts, Daniel Spence and Brandon Bourgeois.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Team Stripes Podcast. We are pretty lucky this week to have two grade A celebrity guests with us. On my immediate right, from Prince Edward Island, we have TJ Courtney, who is a Junior A official as well as CIS official with big dreams down the road. And then on my far right, we have Mike Kehoe, who is a former American Hockey League linesman and now one of the senior officials here in the Ottawa area. So both of you guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Big fan of the show, so nice to be able to contribute in any way.
So you followed our last 3 episodes then?
I did. I really enjoyed them, and glad we can continue the string of Maritimers making an appearance.
Yeah, we are actually integrating our first non-Maritimer today.
Maritime blood. Dad is from good old New Glasgow, Nova Scotia.
Oh, yeah?
So both parents and brother went to St. FX, so and half my family went to St. FX, so I got Maritime blood. I'm almost...
I don't know if that counts, to be honest with you. But...
Fair enough.
Import. Put a flag on that one.
Yeah, so why don't you guys just kind of give the listeners listening at home a little intro about yourselves. I'm sure Kehoe's got to be a legend there, so I'm sure most people listening will know who he is. But why don't you guys just fill in for the folks that don't know? TJ, maybe you want to start out here?
Yeah, sure. So this is my, I want to say 14th season as an official. So I started back in Sherwood, Prince Edward Island, so little suburb of Charlottetown, and started just so I could stay connected to the game. And you know, after a couple of years, you just kind of meet some good people and you have a lot of fun, and things kind of progress from there. So now I'm at the point where I'm refereeing junior hockey, and obviously now in the Ottawa area. So things progress pretty fast, but glad I'm still on the ice and glad I can still be part of the game that I love so much.
Mike, how about yourself?
Well, I'm born and raised out in Canada, on the west side of Ottawa. I started officiating when I was about 14, so I think I'm going on my 14th or 15th season now, like TJ. Coming up out of Canada, working the house league up to the competitive, to the midgets, to the AAAs, and then finally making it in junior, and then kind of just pushing myself and making it from junior to, fortunately, to the CHL, which is now the equivalent to which merged to the East Coast Hockey League. And first year I got called up to the AHL, and it was a dream come true. I told my dad about it. He flew down, so he got to see me for a couple games, which probably was one of the lifetime opportunities I think I ever could have. And yeah, now I'm back in Ottawa. I've been back. I was only down south for a year. I've been back, and now I'm actually started refereeing more. Refereeing at the junior B level, with potentially refereeing at the junior A level next year. And yeah, still lining junior A as of right now, but basically just more aspirations with the as a referee now with the floaters, as they call it.
Don't want to be a puck chaser anymore.
No, I've had...
Whoa.
I picked up enough pucks in my life, and I'm starting to get a little old for the icing, skating down after the icing. So we'll see how next year goes.
Well, thanks for coming, both you guys, onto our podcast, and we're certainly glad to have you. And right now, as we are currently speaking, I guess 2 out of the 3 of us have gotten cut from the junior playoffs, but there's still one of us going strong. TJ is currently refereeing in the Junior A finals here in the Ottawa area. Can you maybe talk about how your playoffs have gone and maybe what you have to look forward to here?
Yeah, it's been good so far. Everybody always looks forward to the playoffs, and the game just gets a little faster and gets a little more exciting at that time. So The games now, you want to be sharp every time you step on the ice, but the playoffs, there's just that little bit of extra pressure and that extra microscope on you every game. So just making sure you're focused, and so it's good to be able to work this deep, and you can't take for granted any opportunity you can get there. So it's been a good season so far, and hopefully it continues.
TJ, I gotta say, if you were doing post-game interviews in like a locker room, you'd be spot on. Like, these are some great post-game clips. You say all the right things here, you know. But
have you seen Letterkenny lately? Like, acting like
yeah, just got to get pucks in deep and do our best and just dig deep, and we'll be successful.
Yeah. No, but so like in the playoffs for right now, you guys are officiating the Ottawa Junior Canadians and the Carleton Place. No, wait, Ottawa. What's it called? Ottawa. Sorry, I don't really know the teams. The Ottawa Junior Senators, right? And the Carleton Place Canadians, two of the top Junior A teams in the country. I mean, how do you handle that big assignment with these two pretty powerful teams?
It's really good hockey, like you said. They're two really powerful teams. So being able to work the games, it's fast-paced hockey. It's hard hitting hockey, and being able to go out there, it's really about keeping your composure and keeping your focus, because they're going to bring their best every game. So we have to be the same. And some of the best hockey I've seen all year has been in this series.
Yeah, no, that makes sense with me. Like, I mean, Mike, looking at your kind of pretty broad background, what kind of experience have you gotten through the playoffs? Like, I mean, what's your take on what's going on now? I mean,
basically, it's in my mind, when I think about playoffs, I think about it's a higher level of competitiveness that you don't see throughout the year. It's another battleground. It's another war. It's the whole. You may have won the battle, but you'll lose the war saying. Whereas in literally every game's a war, and it's faster, it's more hits, higher intensity. Every inch counts, and I love it, and I just love the pressure of it, and I love going out there every game when I get the chance to, and just watching good hockey, like probably the best hockey at the time being.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny you say it, like it's a battle, it's a war, and like you think that applies to the players, but I mean, you've seen kind of on TV in the last few days and weeks, I mean, referees seem to be going down left and right. I know Steve Barton, linesman in the NHL, I don't know, he just seems like he's gotten a bad stretch of luck here, and he's gone down twice. I mean, Mike, I know you've worked those professional levels and you've dealt with injuries before. I mean, can you sympathize with them at all?
Absolutely. I know Bart's has had a rough couple weeks. I think it was concussion he got, and then now he got I think it was a torn something ACL. And then also a dislocated kneecap, which is what I've had about 8 times myself. I've had it happen to me on the ice about 3 or 4 times. And let me tell you.
And on the dance floor, Crazy Horse.
And
really?
Yeah, one time at the dance floor. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a story for another podcast.
I can tell you for sure, though, it's not an easy pain to let go. It's a weird pain. It hits you like nothing. And it's one of those things where you want to get back out on the ice right away, but at the same time, for myself, I need like that. Consulting doctors and whatnot, you can get surgery, but also it is also likely to happen again. And so I chose not to get surgery myself, whether it was the right decision or not. I can definitely feel sympathy for Steve Barton right now for what he's going through. Usually, for the most part, like the thing, like those injuries at the higher level should never really happen to officials. And as you can tell, they haven't happened a whole lot recently, and it's just a bad luck basically. For when I was doing games at that level, there was times where I thought I was just going to get completely smoked. And I'm waiting to get hit, and I got my eyes closed, and then I open my eyes, and the puck's down, like going down the ice, because for the most part, players know where you are and how to avoid you, and as long as you don't get in the way, you're pretty good. You're pretty clear for that part.
So to all the kids listening out there, when something's about to happen, just close your eyes, and it'll all be okay.
And hope for the best.
Click your heels 3 times. and you're good to go. But no,
That's
tough.
That's the TJ Courtney school of refereeing right there. See no evil, call no evil.
That's the maritime way.
Just ask him about goalie interference calls, and we'll call.
Well, before switching to that, because I do want to, because TJ's obviously had his fair share of goalie interference experiences, and that's a big issue still now if you watch the current NHL. But, like, before switching over, I mean, with the whole injury thing, I mean, like, is it different from an official and a player? Because when I played, I mean, if I get injured, you have a bunch of other teammates to take over for you. But as a referee, like, can you risk that when, you might have that crew that might need to, shift and, work down a couple games or...
I mean, you don't want to rely on other people when you go down, because I feel like, in my opinion, when I got hurt, I always felt I was letting the crew down, because we're a team out there. A lot of people will always say there's 2 teams on the ice, but then we can always chime back and say, well, there's actually 3. Not a lot of people realize that the officiating crew is a team. We communicate out on the ice when fans and parents and coaches don't realize it, or even players. So I feel like the last thing I want to do is go down hurt and let my team down. But then again, accidents happen and whatnot. And I've also been on the ice when officials go down. A local official named Dave Lauer took a slap shot to the foot, and we had to officiate a remainder of a junior C game, and it was getting pretty rough. And we basically just took it by stride and adapted with the situation and overcame any obstacle that kind of came our way.
Right. So, yeah, switching over to kind of goalie interference now. So, as a linesman over here, I don't really know much about goalie interference, but TJ, like, is that something that's taken a while for you to get to kind of learn how it works? And, like, have you had your own experiences with it? And maybe could you comment kind of on, the situation in the NHL nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, from a referee's perspective, goalie interference, I feel like we haven't had the issue that the NHL level has. Obviously, we don't have the coach's challenge, so we don't have the chance to pour over plays as closely as they do. In terms of my own personal experiences with goalie interference, it's funny you bring that up, because Mike and I worked a game together last season. I won't mention any teams or any names, but the crux of it is there was some contact made with the goalie that I thought was less severe than it turned out to be. So I didn't call a penalty. Immediately after the other team scored to tie the game with the goalie still on the ice, and then that team ended up winning it in overtime. And in hindsight, after I watched the video and after we had a chat afterwards, I have no shame in saying I got the call wrong. If I could change it, I would. But I think that's another thing to take away from officiating is don't think that just because you make a call that it's the right call, and don't be scared to own up to making a mistake. I'll tell anybody that hears this story, and Mike will be certain to
Advocate it.
Yeah, he'll agree that the wrong call was made. But in terms of goalie interference, I'm not jealous of the guys at the pro level, that especially how it was at the start of the season when they were pouring it over, and it seems that no matter what call was made, there was uproar. So I'm glad that we don't have that issue at the junior level. And I hope I never have the error that I made on the goalie interference last season come up again, although Mike is always ready to remind me of it every chance he gets.
I am, yeah. But
so, Mike, why don't you step up there and help him out? Was there?
I think that was to support TJ though. He was the official. I was just the linesman, and he normally, if the referee has pretty much a determined mind out there, I've learned from experience not to second guess him. He feels like he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the experience at that level. He's probably got a good sense of mind of what's going to be said to the coaches or to the players. So the last thing I'm going to do is intervene and tell him he's wrong in front of players or coaches. Generally, the rule is if the referee comes to the linesman after, we can say our piece, which is what happened in this case. But I've refereed with TJ now at the junior level, and it's just I've learned a lot from him too. So we can laugh about it now and over beers or whatnot, or over drinks. And it was just one of those learning opportunities that I think he had, that I had. Because if you go out there and think you know everything, then you're already lost.
Right.
Basically, because not everyone's perfect. Even the NHL guys you can see are wrong. But with the goalie interference calls going on in the NHL right now, me having my mentality now turned to a referee rather than just a linesman, I'm trying to see the specifics of, say, where the contact's made, where the stick is or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of people will question it, as always, because we're officials. But I find that nothing's always going to go the way you want it. Nothing's going to be perfect. We might see something at home that the referees didn't see on the ice, because then again, we have a split second to make a call, to make a judgment.
Yeah.
Whereas you're sitting at home on the couch, they have the reviews and the commentators, and everyone has their input, and they can replay at different angles. But we still have the 5 seconds in our head of the one angle.
And to be fair to Mike, in this one particular situation we're talking about, even if he does come to me and say that's definitely goal interference, I've already hung myself procedurally, because I really can't sell that to a coach if I wave off their tying goal and say, no, it turns out it was goal interference, because then if the coach knows what he's doing, he's going to look at me and say, but you didn't call it, and a linesman can't make that call. So that's on me. So, I mean, Mike did come up to me and say that's the wrong one, but I sunk myself. I'm taking that one on my shoulders squarely.
So are you saying procedurally it's still the wrong call to overturn, even though with your linesman's opinion it could have been a goalie interference?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, because obviously Hockey Canada has done a lot of research, and they've had a lot of discussion with some very intelligent people in developing the rules and the procedures. So in the end, do you get the call right? I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, especially where we don't have the video on the ice, like looking at the video after that game, I would certainly agree that it would have been ideal if I had gotten it right the first time around. But I think the procedures are in place for the greater good, essentially, to say this is how it should go. And I think there's always going to be a little bit of a barrier between the procedure and directly getting it right without the support of video at the junior level. Luckily, I think there's a lot of really good officials that most of the time we are getting it right. But in that case, there is some scenarios where, maybe if the procedure was relaxed, or if the rules were a little different, we could get away with that.
Okay.
And also to back TJ up, the procedure if we're getting technical, the Hockey Canada rulebook states that the situation we're talking about at hand would be only a minor penalty. The linesman cannot approach the official and say that you missed that, or you have to reverse the call because of a minor penalty. Mm-hmm. If the guy two-handed slashed the guy in the head or something, and he's injured, or hits the opponent from behind, and it's deemed a 5-minute major in my eyes, I've learned from experience and whatnot that if it's a minor penalty, again, we still can't go up into the ref and be like, you missed that, or you should call it, or that needs to be called. Only at major penalties in the rulebook it states where linesmen can go approach the official. Mm-hmm. If it's a minor penalty or any situational, obviously the ref can ask my opinion or linesman opinion, and basically go from there.
And switching gears a little bit here, Mike, you talk about experience, and I know yourself and I have both gotten experience at working, some other professional leagues. But TJ, what's pretty cool with you is that you've had experience working big tournaments and big events. So, with Hockey Canada and the IIHF, I'm wondering maybe if you can kind of maybe give a background into what you've done and talk about your experience with that, and maybe give a few lessons to those out there, willing to work those international tournaments.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky. Hockey Canada's given me a lot of good opportunities. So as a linesman, I was fortunate enough to work the RBC Cup back in Summerside, PEI.
That's for Junior A.
Junior A National
Okay.
Championship. And I was also selected to work the World Under-17 Challenge in 2014 in Cape Breton. So I was a linesman for those. And then as a referee, not quite as experienced at that stage, but this year I was able to work the World Junior A Challenge in Truro, Nova Scotia. So really good opportunities. And I think the lesson that comes out of that is, I think when everybody's refereeing and they're coming up, they see guys that get hired to go work major junior, they get hired to go work the pros, and those are opportunities that you strive for and really pursue those. But for me, the lesson that came out of those selections is that even if you never get that opportunity to maybe get that hire to work the pro or work the major junior hockey, Hockey Canada and their relationship with the IIHF still leaves some really good opportunities for officials to go work events like that, whether it's national championships, some of the international challenges that Hockey Canada hosts, or on a grander scale, some of the international competitions that they send the amateur officials to. So if you never get that opportunity to go work like the pro hockey, like you guys have been fortunate to, these events will really give you a chance to work some really good hockey at the amateur level.
Okay, so just like give me a walkthrough how this whole process kind of works. Like, so you're talking about the World Junior A Challenge you went to this year. Like, how does that happen? Do you get a phone call? Like, how do you get chosen for something like that?
Yeah, so to referee at an event like that, you have to have your level 6 status, which I was fortunate enough to get in 2015. And then from there, when they host these events, the referee and chiefs of the branches will submit nominations to the Hockey Canada Selection Committee. So Hockey Eastern Ontario was kind enough to put my name forward for this year's event. So the event was in mid-December, so around early November, I got a phone call from the HEO referee-in-chief, and he told me that he had put my name forward for this event, and that Hockey Canada had approved my selection. So I became one of the 5 referees that got an opportunity to work that event. And of the 5 referees, the 4 guys I got to work with, really good officials. A lot of them had really impressive resumes. And really a great group of guys to come together with. I think another thing that's key to talk about when you go to these events is you're there to do a job, and you're there to represent your branches and be a good official, but at the same time you get to meet some really good guys and hopefully have a really good time, and that's certainly the experience I had. Have a good time, meet some really good officials, make some really good friends that I'm still in contact with, and really it's an unbelievable experience to go and work that level of hockey.
Mm-hmm. Mike, how about yourself? Do you have any experience working at any high-profile events?
Just high-profile events, I believe. Well, I worked Fred Page Cup in 2011, and when I was in Canada, and it was more symbolic for me because that was the rink I did my very first game ever as an official. So to do one of the biggest tournaments of my career at the time, when the city of Ottawa actually bumped up, put about, I believe it was $10,000 in renovations into the arena for the tournament. It was great to see a sold out crowd, standing room only, and having a lot of local officials come out and see you skate. And you might have heard a few chants of Kehoe. Kehoe. And again, for my parents to see that was kind of, again, beneficial. It was one of the greatest probably tournaments I'll ever work. And then some of the funniest stories you'll hear from when one of the Quebec teams, if not the Quebec team, skated off the ice after in the second period because they felt they were getting
Really?
They felt they were being penalized too much. So on their 8th penalty of the game, because they were running around, skating around, hitting a little high, and making a few dangerous hits. Their coach actually told them, "Okay, boys, let's go to the room. We're done." So I was standing at center ice with my linesman partner, Scott Wilson, at the time, and we're looking down the hall from the ice, and you see half the team, you see the tournament coordinators, just everything, just everyone's yelling at each other because they think the officiating is unclear or unfair, sorry. But next thing you know, you get cops coming in left, right, and center from every side of the building thinking something's going on, but really it's just a team being frustrated they're down 5-0 and they just can't stop taking stupid penalties.
Really?
Yeah, it was. So that was one of the biggest tournaments I've done in my career. And then after that, I went to the Don Kowarski Ref Camp for the second year in a row in Toronto. And that's where I got my contract to go ref in the CHL, which is more of at the time, it was more of an older league where a lot of players that have played in the NHL were coming down. You'll have the few that were coming up because the CHL was also affiliated with East Coast and AHL teams too as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've met players that were from the Ottawa area. And again, like TJ said, you meet officials that you become friends with, you're still in contact with. And I know TJ has a few buddies that are now refereeing in the NHL. Myself, I have a linesman that I was rooming with in Tulsa. He was in Dallas. I was living in Tulsa. That is now as a linesman in the NHL. He's been on full time for about 2 or 3 years, and I believe his brother actually just got hired on part time this year as well. My buddy played NCAA hockey. His brother was playing in Europe for a year. My own brother, played in the OHL and played in Belgium for a year, and then played CIS hockey and whatnot. And I always say he got the talent and I got the good looks. So I was always the house league player growing up.
I'm glad this is over the podcast because this is on video. People might not believe that.
I'm calling bullshit.
He got the talent. He's a lawyer now, but then again, I have my hair still. So he has all his jerseys hung up and framed, and then I have my jerseys hung up, and there's a few of my jerseys a little bit higher than his. So that's kind of my knock against him. I have.
So your parents have to pick favorites between the ref and the player?
Sometimes. But then my sister's a doctor too, so it's kind of like, what the hell happened to me, right? So, but no, like, it's just hockey. You don't realize how small a community hockey is until you're let alone another country or town, and you're 8,000 miles away from home, and you're talking to a guy who grew up 20 minutes from the city you lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable the camaraderie that comes out of it in the long run. And it's like TJ said, it's just friends you'll have forever.
Yeah. And it's probably nice for some of the players too, I'd imagine. Like if you're from Ottawa and you run into a guy that's refereeing that's from Ottawa, it probably makes
we probably get excited to see another official from Ottawa until you realize it's Kehoe, and then the excitement quickly goes away.
I was doing one of my AHL games for Oklahoma City, and good old Ottawa boy Ben Sexton plays for the Ottawa Senators. I don't remember his name, but there's an Ottawa boy that was playing for the Oklahoma City Barons at the time, and he ironically played against my brother. So it was cool just to have a quick chit chat about coming back home and whatnot, and the difference.
Did you ever get to ref your brother?
No, I never did. He's a few years older than I myself, and he was gone at 16 playing for Sudbury, and then got traded to Owen Sound where he was playing. Where his D partner was actually Mark Giordano. And he was playing with Bobby Ryan, who says at 16, Bobby Ryan was just unbelievable. Owen Sound.
Has that ever happened where you like the NHL or AHL has been a brother and a ref, or two brothers refereeing and playing at the same time? I don't know if that'd be like a conflict of interest or something. I've never heard of that issue before, but if that was to ever happen where you were in the American League and he was playing and you were reffing, would that be an issue?
I don't think it'd be an issue because I think on that level you're you guys are both professionals where they automatically assume there wouldn't be anything to worry about.
Yeah.
Comparing to where I know in Ottawa where we've had a few brothers that one's playing and one's reffing, say Junior B or Junior A.
Right.
There's been issues there, and the official might get pulled from the game or something like that before.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because it makes from a business standpoint. Obviously, you don't want to have that doubt or whatnot, that worry of conflict of interest. But I believe if it was to ever happen in the NHL, that it wouldn't be a problem. I know my brother played with a guy in Sudbury, Shane Alfonso, who's now a linesman in the NHL.
There's a big article on him yesterday, actually, that came out. If you guys saw that.
He went from was it a financial advisor to
a linesman.
To a linesman.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because Shane has a younger brother who I've met before and is now coaching a midget AAA team out of Toronto. Shane and his brother actually played together at Lakehead in Thunder Bay. And it was funny. I was skating out for a tournament in AAA in Canada, and I skated out and I looked at the head coach to Toronto, and I just looked at the face and I said, "Oh, that looks like Shane Alfonso," but like it can't be him. So I went up to the timekeeper, asked to see his game sheet, and it was his brother actually. So I went over. I'm like, "You Shane's brother?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Mike Kehoe. I'm Jimmy Kehoe's little brother. Our brothers played together in Sudbury." And he's like, "Yeah, I remember. Like we were. I think I might have been about 12 or 13, and he might have been about 14 or 15 when we both met." And again, it goes back to the hockey community. It's just you might not see each other for a couple of years, but it's funny if you guys are both connected in hockey. You'll probably always hang out later.
Small world, eh?
Yeah,
like
small
you
world.
found that anywhere you go. It's a small, and I've always tried to figure out why like the referee community is kind of so tight together. Like, you guys, I'm sure you guys have noticed like the referee world's pretty tight. Like even here in Ottawa, a lot of the refs will hang out together. I mean, you guys know why that is, or have any?
I think it's because we both know what each other goes through. When TJ came into town, the first time I did a game with TJ, ironically, we were doing a game in Smith Falls, and it was the first time I met TJ, and we were talking about how family from out east and whatnot, and my brother went to Dalhousie University after St. FX, and it's ironic because TJ went there for his master's. So we were talking about that in the East Coast and whatnot, and then we go out and do a game, and then in the third period with about 12 minutes to go, TJ actually gets cut in the lip.
Nice.
And he's bleeding.
Does that mean he has to stop talking?
For once, yeah.
That'd be
Actually,
nice.
he won't he's not talking skating up down the ice. But I see the stick come up and catch him in the mouth area, and I can see him skating up and down the ice, and he keeps tapping his lips to see how cut he is, and he's skating up and down, and all I see is just more blood getting spit on the ice. And I felt bad for him because there wasn't a whistle for about 6 solid minutes, just straight up and down. And I give the Smith Falls trainer, who I knew at the time, just a heads up that TJ was cut and he was coming to him. So I think I might have made up an offside.
Puck went out of play.
Puck went out of play.
I was glad I didn't have to blow my whistle with my lip.
Seriously. So yeah, because puck out of play is a linesman duty, as we all know.
So there's just blood all over the ice at this point.
Blood, as if someone got murdered almost. And so TJ skates over to the bench covering his mouth, and I can't see how bad it is. The trainer cleans it up and takes the towel off, and we just both look at it and like, oh, that needs stitches. Good thing about Smith Falls is the ER room or the hospital is right across the street from the hockey room. So TJ went off and was waiting in the waiting room, and the other partner, Derek Lowry, who's also official now. I believe is he reffing CIS now?
Linesman.
He's
CIS.
line in CIS. Short little guy who played CIS hockey for Carleton though.
Yeah.
Him and I finished the remainder of the junior A game, and we went over about an hour and a half later, and TJ was still waiting in the waiting room, even though there was him and about 2 other people. Anyway, he ended up getting 10 stitches that night, and he felt bad because we were stuck in Smith Falls ER room until about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we both, every official the next day in Canada had our annual ref meeting where we had to do our ref exam the following day. So he showed up the next day with stitches and all. So he was a bit of a trooper. And I think just something like that kind of brings guys together. And since that day, TJ, I guess not knowing a whole lot of guys from Ottawa, I'd always, every weekend I'd always like just send him a text, make him feel welcome kind of thing, like just maritime thing. You always want to make
Whoa. Don't take that title.
Wow, okay.
Okay, but we'll give it to you.
Maritime blood.
This is a nice story.
Maritime blood.
Okay.
The way I was raised from my father is you always want to make someone feel welcome in your home or city. And Steve would always also make me pick up any exchange guys coming into town. But I don't know, just TJ and I got along great. And so every other weekend or every weekend I'd always send him a text seeing where's he skating and if you want to always ever wanted to meet up for drinks and whatnot. And I think one thing led to another, and ironically now we're living together.
Yeah, it's it's a small world, like Mike said. You go through the common experiences, you have those times. So it's funny you come here, and there was a couple of guys that I knew from working some events that were already in Ottawa, so that was a good connection. Managed to get my lip busted open, and that formed a relationship with Mike. And then, you would know, we come here, we're both maritime guys. We have a lot of mutual friends that are still going back home. So
absolutely,
you get those connections, and it's always nice because now I think we're all in a position where we can go pretty near any province, any city across the country, and you'll have that network of guys or friend of a friend that's been on the ice, and it's pretty cool. Ottawa is my third branch refereeing in the span of about 4 years. And I was really fortunate that every branch I went to, you meet really good guys, you form some really close friendships. And you just you get very comfortable with guys very quickly after you step on the ice with them and after you go through some of those experiences.
Yeah. And how's it been, you guys under the same roof here? Has there been any fights, or you guys get along pretty well?
We've had a few dust ups, but but beers might have been involved.
I've got 3 jerseys on the wall downstairs. Mike's still hanging it with 2. So
yeah, I wish you guys could see this mural. It's creepy almost. They have a big mural downstairs of all the referee jerseys of all the leagues they've worked.
Sorry, my jerseys have a little bit more weight than his. So.
That's because you're a little heavier than I am.
Yeah. No, we've had some good times. It's a good thing that TJ and I are both Leaf fans, so.
So make sure you speak a little slower to them if you meet them in person.
But no, me and TJ, and I knew I was living with another official who was moving out with his girlfriend. So I was talking to TJ about what his options were coming when his lease was up, and I know the place he was living at was pretty bad when he had to wheel over the washing machine to the kitchen sink to get some water going.
We don't have to get into a Cribs podcast.
Sorry.
Where'd you live, man?
Yeah. I actually thought it was really convenient. The washing machine, you tuck it away, you roll it out, hook it up to the sink. I thought it was great. Mike wasn't a fan, but
Mike's been living with like standard electricity and water.
Now we have a standard laundry room, and
probably felt just at home though at PEI standards though.
Yeah. I didn't have to take it down to the beach and use the washing stone, so I was happy.
No, and then through TJ we met our other roommate, and basically we've been in our new place since October, and
I'm sure all the referees out here listening are very interested in our living situation.
We haven't had any fights, basically. There's been no fights. There's been no issues. TJ stays at his room. I have my room.
Fuck off. Some great referee discussions have taken place in there.
A lot of in-depth discussions.
There has been some
theory, and
there's been some late night strategy sessions, but like
strategy meetings.
But like there's like I'm not afraid because of TJ's experience. In all seriousness, I'm not afraid to ask him what would he do there.
Right.
There's been times where we might look stupid, but like we've been out at bars and we've done like a situational awareness to everything. Like, and we're like, we'll be watching a Sens game or a Leaf game, and we'll be watching a ref tactic or not tactic. Like we'll be watching the ref skate around and like we'll shoot back and forth of ideas or like what would you do or whatnot. And I take TJ's experience kind of more to heart just because he's been around the higher level hockey. He's as a referee, and he can probably pinpoint the better spots to be in compared to me, where coming up as a linesman, I'm really good at icings and offsides. Whereas now it's positioning for a referee. It's it's a little bit more for me. It's taken me a little longer to get used to. Like for example, if we go to a Sens game, I know a lot of regular fans will probably be watching the play, but the thing most people don't realize is that if you're an official on ice, say in the junior level or whatnot in general, a lot of times like you go to a game and you'll catch us or whatnot watching the referees more than the play sometimes, just to figure out positioning wise and whatnot. I know a lot of times Hockey Canada standard is different than say the NHL, but still you can pick up some tricks from them that no one really realizes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think you brought up an important point too. Like I'm really happy when we get to have those conversations because I can pass on some of the stuff I've learned, but at the same time, nobody gets to where they are on their own. I mean, coming up, I looked up to a lot of guys. I'm sure all of us are the same. We had guys that we really admired and really helped us out along the way. So I think for any official out there that whether they're a veteran or whether they're more of a rookie, seek out that help, offer up that help at the right time and place. Growing up, I had a lot of really good mentors in PEI, and then again in Nova Scotia when I got there. So name drop a couple of the guys in the island helped me out, like Thane Arsenault, Tim Hamel, some really good officials there that helped me out. So I think as all of us progress up to more veteran roles, we really owe it to the next guys to have those conversations and pass along that knowledge wherever we can.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note to kind of wrap it up on. And boys, thanks very much for kind of taking your time out of the playoff hockey season to chat. And Mike, I want to leave you with the last word here of advice to the listeners listening out there. What would you say to them to end it up?
Advice skate hard, open ears, keep your head up. Basically, just take everything with stride. Don't let any supervisor or any management put you down. Basically, you're gonna find barriers in life. You just gotta go past it. If there's a wall in front of you, just break it down.
You can close up that cliche book anytime now.
Just skate hard and keep going. That's all I'm saying.
All right, well, boys, thanks very much for taking the time, and go Leafs go, I guess.
Yeah, bro.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Cheers.